What's good? It's Wrestling King here, and today we're going to discuss the recent episode of AEW Dynamite. We're going to get straight into it. Starts off with Tony Khan starting off the show. He's in the neck brace, still playing, the injury from last week's episode with the Young Bucks and the Elite. He's talking about how he can't be there due to him not being medically cleared and all, but he ends up getting cut off, and we end up losing Tony Khan due to the Young Bucks ends up interrupting. The Young Bucks ends up playing it up, ends up saying that we lost connection, and basically the Young Bucks ends up saying that in their contracts that the Young Bucks ends up talking about how they should be fired, but they have a founders clause in their contract, so that's why they can't get fired. Which, I mean, storyline wise, to be fair, that sounds like something Tony. I don't know if Tony. I wouldn't even be shocked that Tony Khan would do something like that, but I don't know if that makes the most sense from a story perspective, though, that they have a founders clause. That's why they're not fired, but that's the logic they're going off of. And they said that since Tony Khan is not there, they are the ones that are in charge due to the contract, that if there was ever a situation that Tony Khan couldn't make it or couldn't make it for whatever show, they will be the next in line. So they're the ones running the show. They're the ones running AEW Dynamite. Now, and then after that, they end up, cutting to the show. They do the typical promo package, but they end up showing a promo package of themselves, Okada and Jack Perry, which I thought was great heel work. Now we get to the start of the show. We get to Swerve Strickland. He cuts his promo, starts off with him. He talks about being a champion, talks about him being a fighting champion. I think he had like 2 or 3 title defenses already. Talks about being a fighting champion, and he ends up saying that that's what AEW deserves. They deserve, him being a fighting champion. But then he starts saying what AEW don't deserve is selfish, childish, greedy, power hungry EVPs who think they could throw their weight around with no consequences. And then he ends up talking about that he stands on what he said from last week. That was a bitch move. Talking about Collision. On Collision, he said that it was a bitch move for them to attack Tony Khan, since Tony Khan isn't a fighter. Then he starts alluding to his opponent for Double or Nothing. He's like, he still doesn't have an opponent. He wonder who is going to be. And he says, whoever wants to face him at Double or Nothing, come out. Then we get to the Titantron. The Young Bucks show up. The Young Bucks starts talking. Matt Jackson ends up saying that the success is getting to your head, getting to Swerve Strickland's head. You're bad mouthing your bosses. That's disrespectful. And he says that maybe you need some humility. So how about we arrange your opponent for Double or Nothing? Then they play the music, and it's Christian Cage, and I love it. I love it. And it's very weird because Swerve Strickland is kind of coming off as a babyface when he was a heel initially. Even during like his run, he was kind of like a heel, but now they're playing him like a babyface, which I'm not mad at because he's so over. You kind of have to play him like a babyface to be fair. It's kind of like MJF to a degree. It's like the person is so loved that you kind of have to turn him babyface. And Christian Cage is the perfect guy to have Swerve go against. He's the perfect guy where we know he's not going to win, but he's that believable, nasty, slimy heel that's going to get you to root for Swerve Strickland, which I think is great. Then we get Christian. He gets in the ring. He has everyone with him. He has Mama Wayne, Nick Wayne, and Killswitch. Christian grabs the microphone. He looks like he's about to talk, but he immediately attacks Swerve with the microphone. Swerve ends up making a little comeback, attacks Christian, takes out Nick Wayne, takes out Killswitch, and then he was about to punch Mama Wayne, but he stops because he realized he was about to hit her. But Killswitch ends up recovering when Swerve was off guard, distracted with Mama Wayne. He ends up attacking him, and then when he attacked Swerve, Prince Nana tries to come in, but he ends up getting attacked by Killswitch. Then Christian ends up hitting the kill switch onto the AEW championship belt. Then Nick Wayne ends up doing a cutter on Prince Nana. Then Christian grabs the microphone and he ends up saying that there's something you should know about me. I never forget. I haven't forgotten about how you broke into my son Nick Wayne's gym and left him in a pool of his own blood. I haven't forgot about when we was a tag team at All In, that casket match. Swerve was the one that got put in the casket. He was the one that cost him that match. And he says, and Christian ends up saying, I've been waiting for the right moment for you to answer for those mistakes. You went on and got the world championship, and there's not a better time than right now to make you pay. Then he alludes to last week, because Swerve Strickland last week cut a promo and he mentioned his daughter. He mentions how his daughter don't even know, her own father like that due to him not being around there, with his career. Christian ends up saying that after he ends up saying that, yeah, he ends up saying that after he's done with Swerve Strickland, your daughter is not going to want to get to know you. And he ends up saying that I promise you this, your daughter is going to have a father that she can be proud of. That was sick, bro. That was sick, man. Swerve Strickland got to be out for blood, bro. He got to be out for blood. Like, he needs to be out for blood, bro. You can't be talking about a man's daughter and not want blood. Like, they need to make Swerve Strickland be out for blood. He needs to be on site, on go, no promo, just immediately looking for Swerve Strickland. I mean, looking for Christian Cage backstage, in the ring, whatever, bro. He needs to be on site on Dynamite next week. Then he ends up saying that after he says that, Kill Switch ends up going towards Swerve and ends up tearing a dreadlock off of Swerve. And that's the end of that segment right there. Love it. Love the segment. It did everything it needed to do. It shows Swerve as that sympathetic babyface overcoming the odds. And it shows Christian being that nasty heel that we could all hate. Love it. This was a great segment. Now we got Adam Copeland versus Buddy Matthews, still going with the House of Black storyline, the rivalry with the House of Black. This was a decent match. I was kind of bored with this match, if I'm being honest. It was an open challenge for the TNT Championship. In this match, there was kind of a scare, though. I was kind of scared because Buddy Matthews was coughing up blood. It was a sequence where Edge and Christian both jumped into each other with their bodies and, collide with their stomachs. And Buddy Matthews was coughing up blood like crazy in this match. But he continued. Edge ended up retaining his championship, of course, with the spear. But after the match, though, not Edge, Adam Copeland. I got to get used to calling him Adam Copeland. Adam Copeland attacks Buddy Matthews, attacks him. He attacks him after the match. He's showing anger, showing rage. He's attacking him, which is very unusual from babyfaces. Typically, it's the heel doing that, but the babyface doing that, very unusual. Afterwards, he gets out the ring, gets 2 chairs. He ends up attacking him with the chair. Then he ends up laying Buddy Matthews' face onto the chair, and then he's about to hit him. He's about to do, the thing where the wrestler hits the chair onto the other chair with his head, laying down. He's about to do that. But the lights go out. The lights goes out, and then they pop back up. It's Malachi Black. Malachi Black talks to Adam Copeland, and he ends up telling him to do it. Tells him to do it. And then Buddy Matthews is like, hit me. He's about to do it, but he turned towards Malachi as he was doing it, so it looked like he was about to hit Malachi. And then the lights go off, cut back on, and they disappeared, and that's the end of the segment there. So a little bit of mind games that the House of Black are still doing to Adam Copeland. We got to see how that story progresses, but I'm still interested in the storyline. Next, we got Samoa Joe versus Isaiah Cassidy. I'm not going that in depth to this match. This is a filler match. Samoa Joe won. This is basically a swash match. Samoa Joe won. I'm not going to go that in depth into it. Next, we got a quick little vignette segment where, the wrestler is talking, but they're showing a promo package as they're talking. Sky Blue. She calls out Willow Nightingale. She calls Willow Nightingale a fraud and mentions how in her last match, she had Willow Nightingale beat, but she lost due to Stokely interfering, which is true. And she says that if you are the champion that you think you are, put your title up on Rampage. I don't know what this is where it's kind of get hard for me to get invested in certain championships, because why on Rampage when you could just do it on Collision? Really, on Rampage though? Like Toni Storm defends her championship, but even she defends it on Collision, at least from what I see. It's like, why on Rampage? Like, no one, like, come on. Like, that's kind of disrespectful to the TBS championship. Like, why on Rampage? You could at least given it on Collision, like, but on Rampage, really? But so we're gonna see how that goes. Next we got Orange Cassidy. He comes out, he cuts a promo. He ends up saying that thought after Saturday that after Trent and Chuck Taylor fought, each of them would have got everything out of their system and that we will all get back together. But that's never going to happen. I've been told what Trent did to Chuck after the match. I've been told Chuck would never wrestle again. Then he starts talking about how he's gonna, when he sees sees Trent, he's gonna come after him. But then Trent ends up interrupting Orange Cassidy. He ends up saying that, big surprise, Orange Cassidy makes things about himself again, trying to make someone else career-ending injury about himself. Orange Cassidy immediately is not trying to listen. He runs after him, but security ends up holding him back. And then as security holds him back, Trent Beretta is saying that you're too selfish. And he says, Trent career ending, it's your fault. It's all your fault. Then Chris Statlander and Don Callis came out. And then, Chris Statlander is trying to calm down Orange Cassidy. But then Don Callis comes out and he's talking to Orange Cassidy and he whispers something in his ear. And then they walk off. Orange Cassidy and Don Callis walk off together. And then Chris Statlander ends up wondering what's going on, ends up, going after them. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out, because it's like Don Callis is a heel. So I don't know if they're going to there's no way they're turning Orange Cassidy heel. I don't know how that plays. I don't know where they're going with that storyline, but I'm a bit interested, but very curious to see how that plays out though. Now we get a Jack Perry interview. It started off as a Young Bucks interview, but the Young Bucks end up, saying that they don't have enough time, and ends up saying that we need to give more spotlight to someone who deserves it, mentioning Jack Perry. Jack Perry ends up saying that he meant what he said last week, that he wants the best for AEW, and he said that's what he did. And he ends up saying that Tony Khan made him the scapegoat, but he accepted it because it was a sacrifice someone was going to have to make. And he says that we are in a new era, and that's the end of the interview there. Nothing too major there. Now we got Chris Jericho versus Shibata. This match was I'm not gonna say underwhelming because I wasn't expecting much, but this match was very hard to watch. It was some spots in this match which was very stupid and I just didn't like. The spot where Chris Jericho ended up putting a trash can over Shibata and he's hitting the kendo stick on like his head, but Shibata is just like eating it with the trash can on him. And then Chris Jericho is doing his thing where he's like, he keeps hitting him with it and he sees this does no effect, and each time he's backing up more and more into the corner, acting afraid of a guy in a trash can. It's like you could easily just attack him when he's not. You could easily attack him because he doesn't know where you at, but you letting him corner you over and over. And then he gets in the corner and he's like pleading for his life when he could easily attack him. But no, he lets Shibata attacks him with the trash can. Just like, it was just very stupid. I didn't like this match, but Shibata is about to get the advantage. He's about to put Chris Jericho through a table, but Big Bill ends up interfering into the match. He ends up choke slamming Shibata through the table. Chris Jericho ends up taking advantage, pick up the victory. So there continues the storyline of Big Bill trying to, get the guidance of Chris Jericho and wants Chris Jericho to accept them. So we'll see how that plays out. Now we got a quick interview segment with Willow, Stokely, and Chris Statlander. Willow basically accepts the challenge, but in the middle of it, they end up getting a text message from the Young Bucks, basically that if Stokely and Chris Statlander are banned from ringside, and that if any interference happen, Willow Nightingale will not be the TBS champion. She will not be the TBS champion anymore. So we'll see how that goes. Next, we got Brian Cage versus Claudio. I'm not going to go that in deep into this match because I also was bored with this match as well. But to be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of Claudio's in-ring work anyway. But Brian Cage ends up tapping out. That's all you need to know. Now next, we got Mariah May versus Serena Deeb. This match was this match was decent. This match was decent. This was a decent match. Mariah May is impressing me more and more. The more and more each and every week, she's impressing me each week. Serena Deeb, she was decent in this match. Her in-ring work was solid. I'm not gonna say it was solid. Um, but we got to a point where towards the end, Serena Deeb has Mariah May in a submission. Mariah May is not tapping out, and I think she refused to tap out. Tony Storm couldn't handle it no more. Throws in a white towel. Serena Deeb ends up winning, and that makes her the number one contender. So now, Serena Deeb and Tony Storm will fight at Double or Nothing. We already know. So this nothing too major. We already know Serena Deeb is not winning. This is just another body for Tony Storm to win to add on to her championship reign. Now, we got a quick interview segment with Adam Copeland. Renee talks about Adam raging out on Buddy Murphy. What was that about? But he says he's fine. Kyle O'Reilly ends up coming out, interrupted, ends up saying how he looks up to Adam Copeland, how that if he needs any help, he's there. He's there. You can hit him up. Adam Copeland ends up, showing respect, ends up appreciating it. Don't know why they added that. I'm assuming Kyle O'Reilly will be involved in the storyline with House of Black because there's no reason for him to say, if you need a helping hand, I'm here, and then he never be a helping hand. So I'm assuming they're going to add him into the storyline eventually. Now we get to the main event. Kenny Omega returns. He's returned. He's back. Cuts a promo. He ends up, going over what he was diagnosed with. And he ends up talking about how he talks about how lucky he is, and then he ends up mentioning how he almost could have died. He ends up saying that the doctor told him that if they were to cut him open, that he was going to possibly need a bag for possibly 6 months, a year, and possibly for the rest of his life. And that if he doesn't get cut open, that he will always be on a ticking time bomb. And he ends up saying that the doctor told him that any blood-fused trauma in the stomach can kill him at any moment. Then he ends up saying that he was scared, how he felt like a coward, and he says that he possibly will have to retire. And he says that he had to stop watching Dynamite. He had to stop watching Dynamite for a while because every time he would watch it, his hand would start to twitch. But then he says he turned on AEW Dynasty, mentions the Swerve match, mentions Will Ospreay, and he says the tremors, it got worse though. Then he ends up asking himself that, is he really scared of being a professional wrestler? But he ends up saying no, because he said when he came out tonight, heard the cheers from the crowd, made him realize that the reason he was shaking was because he was going through a withdrawal, and he needs to be in the ring. He needs to be in the ring, needs to be the one to prove he's the best. Basically saying that he loves what he does and he wants to get back out there. And that he basically makes a promise that if there's anything he could do, whether it's a 5% chance, 10% chance, no matter how low the chances are, he will do that to make sure he could come back. Then he starts mentioning the Young Bucks. Mentions the Young Bucks, says the Young Bucks been embarrassing themselves, how they're embarrassment to AEW. But he says that's fine since they're EVPs. But you forgot who also is an EVP. And he says that I may have been, which alluding to himself, he says that I may have been fired from the elite, but you can't fire me from being an EVP. So until someone says otherwise, a part of the power in the company belongs to me. Okada comes out after that. And then Kenny Omega they're both in the ring. Kenny ends up saying that we had a little rivalry in New Japan. How about you give me a couple of months and we'll settle it? Okada ends up saying something, but I forgot what he said. He ends up saying something. Then Jack Perry attacks him from behind. Jack Perry, taunting, taking a little while, wasting a little bit of, screen time, until they could go off the air. Then Kenny Omega makes a little comeback, runs towards the ropes, I think he was about to do a running knee, but no. He makes a comeback. He does a suplex to Jack Perry, yeah. Then he tries to, run towards the ropes, but Okada ends up tripping him. That gives enough time for Jack Perry to recover, and Jack Perry ends up hitting him with a steel chair in the stomach. Then the Young Bucks come out and they do the same thing they did last week, where they pretend like like they're not gonna attack the guy, but they do. They set up the EVP trigger and hits him with it, and then they was about to do another move, but FTR comes out and makes the save. And that's the end of your Dynamite. This was a okay show, if I'm being honest. The ending and the beginning was the best part of the show. After that, it kind of falls off, especially the second hour. The first hour was good, but the second hour, it was a tough watch. But this was a good show. I'm very interested to see how this the Elite storyline will play up. Now I will say this. I was a little scared because if everything Kenny Omega is saying is true, but why did he take bumps? I was a little scared when he was taking bumps though, because especially in the stomach though, because like if the now he could be playing it up because wrestlers it's very hard to tell what's real, what's fake when it comes to injuries because wrestlers could be so good at selling things. Now the what he was diagnosed with that's real. I'm talking about him with the whole stomach thing because it's like you got hit in the stomach, you're taking bumps. It's like it's looking, what I'm saying? It's kind of hard on, watching that when, the situation. But who knows? Maybe it's one of those things where he's cleared to a certain degree where maybe certain things can happen. Of course, they're all professionals. So maybe they're, safe enough where I may just be delusional, but I hope he makes a speedy recovery. I hope he, gets what he needs, and I hope everything goes well for him. Because Kenny Omega is a great wrestler. He's an amazing wrestler, and AEW is better with him on. And this is something he loves. He loves being in the ring, and he wants to be in the ring. So this is something that he loves to do. And to have that stripped away from you, that's tough. But what do you guys think of this night's episode of Dynamite? Like I said, I thought it was an okay show. Mainly the beginning and the end was the best parts. Everything else was kind of just for the most part. But this is an okay show. What you guys think? That's all I really have to say about the show. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.